So I'm just gonna provide some market update, and this is as of July. So MLS push out these updates about like a month old. So the data is as fresh as like a month old. So every single month, I'm just gonna provide the data for the prior month. Okay. So this is market update for sale versus sold. Home for sale in July 2023, that's 1,087 units, and that's up 5.6% compared to last month, but it's down 58.7% compared to last year.
Wow.
Okay, so we have more than, we have more than half less of the inventory as of compared to last year. Okay.
And last year was low too, right?
Yeah, last year was really low.
Yeah, so
okay, so this year is like 58.7% lower. Okay, and I think that's probably the main reason why, despite the high interest rate, the home prices are still high up there. And home closed in July 2023, 862 units, and that is down 9.6% compared to last month. And I believe the reason is because of the higher interest rate. Fed just recently really raised the rate, and that's why there's not as many homes closed compared to last month. And so you can see that we have a 5.6% higher inventory than last month, but even lower buyer action because there's just not as many houses that's closed compared to last month, and then I mean the conclusion that you can draw there is that the effect of the rate hike is apparent. So this chart shows you the appreciation, or if there's any appreciation at all compared to last year. Average sold price per square footage in July 2023 was $335 per square foot. And that is down 1.5% compared to last month. And that's down 2.3% compared to last year. So like a $500,000 home, actually a $1 million home is gonna be worth 2.3% less compared to last year. That's what this chart is trying to show. All right, so sale price continues to drop, but it's not significant. It's only 1.5%. Do you have a question, Jessica?
Yeah, are these, I don't know if you covered this already, are these national numbers, are these local?
No, this is just mainly in Sacramento County.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
So let's go to days on market. Continuous days on market in July 2023, that's 19 days. What do you guys think of that number? So if you list that house on the market, it's gonna get sold in 19 days.
yeah, that's pretty insane.
That's still pretty low, right? And that despite the high interest rate, again, this is due to the fact that we have such a low inventory right now. And this is 0% compared to last month. So same 19 days to close last month as this month. We're actually in the hot season right now. Real estate has cycles, and we're actually in the summertime, even though a lot of kids are back to school, but there's still lots of buyers action. So the days on market is still low, but it's down 5% compared to last year. So which is a good sign actually. So you take 5% more number of days on market for a similar home to be sold last year compared to this year. Again, I think we've been blessed with the low inventory. Okay, sold over original list price percentage in July 2023, that's 100%. So it's basically saying if you list the price for $500,000, it's gonna get sold for $500,000. No more, no less. Realtor, and that's 0% compared to last month, which means that the price of the homes are just, they're priced right. They're just right. Okay, the realtors, I guess they're doing a good job at educating sellers. Hey, if you want to list your home to be sold in 19 days or less, this is the price that you do list the home at. And this is the home that I'm gonna get your house sold. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's pretty encouraging. And like I mentioned here, still relatively low days on market, 19 days on market. I have another chart later that shows the months of inventory. I think it's after this one. So average for sale price in thousands in July 2023, that is $762,000. That is pretty high. I thought we're like maybe in the $450,000 range, but we're actually catching up with the prices in the Bay Area. Obviously, the prices in the Bay Area, I think it's over $1 million. That's down 3.2% compared to last month, and that's up 16.5% compared to last year. So
That's crazy.
people are listing their homes higher by 15%, plus 15%. I don't know why, but I think that number is a little bit skewed because the number that you should be looking at is I think, in my opinion, should be average sold price in thousands. And that in July 2023 is $601,000. Okay? And that's down 0.3% compared to last month and up 0.8% compared to last year. So prices are, in my opinion, relatively healthy. There's not a significant drop, 0.3%. That is, I don't think that's, it's not even like a standard deviation. Attentive to like anybody who wants to be in a market to sell. So are we really in a recession? My opinion is not really as it appears to be, considering how high the interest rate is right now. Despite the high interest rate, the price remains relatively the same as compared to last year. Again, this is due to the fact that we have such a low inventory. Okay, so the months of inventory based on closed sales in July 2023, it's about 1.3 months. So anything that is less than 3 months, that is a seller's market. Anything that's between 3 and 6 months is a neutral market. Anything that's about 6 months, that's a buyer's market. So we're still like maybe 1.7 months away from going into a neutral market. So sellers still dominate in this market, and that's up 18.4% compared to last month. So there's definitely more inventory, 0.2 month, more inventory than last month, but compared to last year, we're still like down 45.5%. So there's more homes for sale compared to last month. However, we still have very, very low inventory. So this is just my conclusion. You can take it with a grain of salt. I break it down into if you're a buyer in the market, if you're a seller in the market, or you're an investor like me, right? If you're a buyer, I would say you should just wait until fall comes around. And there's not as big of a discount as you get like when I did this market update back in May. Okay, and interest rate continues to be higher than before. So maybe wait when the price drops so that you can actually afford that home. Because the interest rate, your monthly payment is tagged to the interest rate. Okay, if you're a seller, now is the time to sell. Price is relatively healthy considering how high the interest rate is. And like I mentioned, it's still the seller's market. We only have 1.3 months worth of inventory. Okay? If you're an investor, you should always consider like buying deeply. Okay? Even though I think we have a lot of headwind right now because of the low inventory, so there's a lot of investors and there's not as many inventory. I just picked up my first property of the year, okay, from a wholesaler, and that's unheard of because we used to be able to pick out like 1 or 2 every single month. I just pick up 1. So how do you survive in this climate? I don't know. So I would say give some kind of concessions if you have a property you want to sell, just so that you can stay competitive in the marketplace, and you want to be the one that gets multiple offers versus another property that's on the marketplace that's listed maybe $5,000 higher than yours and is taking a lot longer. Okay, so you price low, staging it really well, and then you get multiple offers, and then you can actually capture that 5,000, if not more. Does that make sense to you, everybody?
I wish all investors think like
I learned that from Jasmine.
Yeah. It's true, man. It's so true because I see a lot of investors' houses just sit, and it's because of the highest price. I mean, it's a lovely home, but they usually, have the highest priced property in the neighborhood, and then they added all these upgrades, but nobody even wants to walk to explore those upgrades because it's too high price.
Yeah. So this is the one that we just picked up, I think a month ago. And this is from a wholesaler. We're always looking. We bought it for $210 on July 31st. And the wholesaler made $35,000. I'm totally okay with that. ARV is $405,000. I think we're gonna clear the bank $70,000 after everything is said and done. We're gonna just keep the kitchen cabinets. We're just gonna replace the countertop. We're gonna install the new. We're gonna replumb the whole house, and we're gonna put in the new central heat and air. And that's pretty much it. So if you're interested in becoming our gap money lender, feel free. I'd be happy to take you to our job site, and you can see the progress. We just demoed the property a week ago, and we're just starting putting everything back together. Okay? Any questions on that?
For your private money lenders, do you put them on a straight note, or do you put them on
I'll give you a notarized deed of trust. It's up to you to record it, okay? But you have that security there, okay?
Do you have any room to build an ADU on that site?
That lot is 0.23 acres.
So no.
Quarter
acre?
Yeah,
It's 0.23 acres.
Oh, okay.
You can do, yeah. I have a group home nearby, so if I can sell this one, I'll just convert it into a group home.
That's the one we
On Pokita, yeah. So right now we have 7 residents there, and I'm clearing $4,000 over there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Anyway, I want to promote this because this is not for me only. I'm looking for people that I can actually hold accountable to. Okay, and I want you guys to hold me accountable as well. We started prospecting like crazy. Okay, do you guys know Mojo? It's a triple light dialer.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we recently switched over to Ready Mode. It used to be Zen Call, got rebranded to Ready Mode. It's like 10 line dialer.
What?
And we just bought like 100 numbers, and you can rotate amongst those 100 numbers, so it doesn't show up as a spammy call. Because usually the carrier will label it after you run that number through like hundreds of dials. Okay, so that's really exciting. But the purpose of the mastermind is, like I mentioned, is to keep each other accountable, and we're gonna do a lot of research and development on what works. Okay, we do a lot of marketing. We do PPC, we do SEO, and what else? By the way, I'm launching something, but if you are in the mastermind, you'll know. And we're gonna build off of each other's network of real estate professionals, and then try to monetize each other's needs. Okay, and I have a deep vendor network, so I can provide you as well.
Nice.
Okay, you must be prospecting already. That's the #1 qualification, and you must be committed to meet weekly and check out your ego at the door. It's gonna be $100 a month. So I want that physical and also financial commitment from you. Okay, so if you're interested, you can contact me, and you can contact me on all these channels: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, or Facebook, okay? And I'm gonna share the slides with you guys. We just recently released 2 very informative YouTube videos. One is why 2023 is the best time to buy a house, okay? Feel free to watch that. That's actually a link to that YouTube video. The second one is how does housing market works? How does housing market work? All right, and then I just recently wrote an article on our website, Buy a Home in California with Ease, 13 easy steps to become a homeowner with the help of ChatGPT, okay? There's like prompts that you can use to actually, make it very, very useful. And that's for building SEO. Make sure you scan this QR code so that you get our weekly newsletter. Actually, we send out newsletter twice a week. Okay, you get weekly newsletter, and that's going to include real estate marketing, mindset, market update, investing opportunities, case studies, and so on and so forth. All right, and then follow us, Insightful REI, there on Facebook, so that you get notified of this weekly event or monthly event. All right, and if you guys have a podcast, invite me to speak on your podcast to your tribe, or just pick my brain. Okay, invite me for a cup of coffee. Okay, I know a lot in real estate, and I'm constant learning. That's why I invited Jack. He threw an open house, and I was intrigued. That's why I went there to that ADU there in Fair Oaks. He's going to be talking more about that. All right, so that's me, and I'm going to just bring Jack to the stage, and he's the CEO, co-founder of BQual, and he did a proof of concept ADU in Fair Oaks, and I'll have him talk more about that. And there's actually something that he's doing with the realtors. So I think that the realtors here in the group will benefit a lot from what he's trying to do. That's part of his mission statement. So let's give Jack a warm round of applause, and let's invite him up to the stage.
All right, I'm going to start with 2 things you probably know and 1 thing you don't. The housing inventory in Sacramento is old. Most of the single-family homes are 3 bedrooms or more. But here's what you don't know. 66% of families live without children. So I'm Jack Saba, and what we do are single-family studios. What we're providing are singles and couples access to neighborhoods with modern apartment living, interiors, and finishes. So we're providing access to neighborhood, privacy, separation, and backyard space. These are the 3 takeaways I want you guys to take from today. Sacramento is mandated by punishment to build 42,000 homes by 2030. You guys can be the ones that can build it, and we can help.
What do you mean by punishment?
By penalty of the state. So across the state, California has mandated that each region has to, in every planning cycle, hit certain housing goals. And within the planning cycle, if they don't submit rezoning that supports their housing growth, they have what's called builder's remedy. So down in Southern California right now, multifamily apartments that have been on delay for 6 years, 7 years, are going up left and right because they didn't get within compliance. The state is not messing around. They are building housing one way or another.
So is that why the apartment housing boom is around here?
The apartment booming house around here is probably because of available developable space.
Yeah.
That's a really big contributor, but they are supportive because they have to hit that goal. So they're doing what they can to get you there. In a lot of places, communities still have the ability to prohibit multifamily development, which is why California got into policy for ministerial approval and more modern density housing. So I'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
So from the bottom, the United States is 3,800,000 homes short. That means more households are forming than are being built. 70% of homes were built before the 1960s. 90% of them have 3 bedrooms or more, but 1 and 2 person households are exploding. That is the dominant household formation in communities, but they don't have access to neighborhoods. What California is doing is allowing for moderate density. Because so many jurisdictions have the ability to prohibit multifamily, they're saying, how can we spread out that need of housing within the community in a way that doesn't change the neighborhood and the structure? So what they have done is they've allowed for accessory dwelling units, backyard homes, and they've allowed for lot splits, which means that you can take a single family property, not only turn it into a duplex, but on each of that split property, you can put another ADU. So that means you're taking one property and you're turning it into 4. So there is asymmetry of value creation opportunity on each property. If you were looking at this as a single family home and valuing it as a single family home versus someone that's looking at it as a development site with the potential to create more income through other rental properties, you are looking at the value of that property fundamentally different than everybody else.
Are they changing the zoning now or what?
So zoning for single family homes is statewide. So whereas a jurisdiction could say, hey, we want to put these requirements in place in order to support, like in order to keep neighborhood character, for example. What California has done is they've negated all HOA and CCR restrictions for accessory dwelling units and the ability to rent them. Gone, do not count. They have removed parking requirements if you're within a half mile of transit. They've standardized setbacks across the state. So it is 4 foot for side lots and back lots. And so that's to say that if Fair Oaks wanted to be like, well, we don't really want ADUs, let's put a 50-foot setback requirement. Well, you couldn't build, right? So what they did was they created a beachhead policy that said, let's start building ADUs. And then every instance of friction from there forward, they have created a policy around removing. So they really are progressing towards making this as simple as possible.
So basically, the state of California is making those laws that will triple or will encompass the city's law, because the cities have different laws and they're kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So they will all be gone, and then the California law will be.
They are gone. So as it relates to single family zoning, they've passed over 100 housing bills since 2018 or 2016 rather. And it's all been towards the progression of making it more simple to build moderate density housing rather than high rises. So the types of accessory dwelling units that you can have are JADUs, which are junior ADUs, which would be the equivalent of, say, converting a garage with just a kitchenette, not a full kitchen, but just a moderate, like some kind of stovetop on the top or something like that. You can do an attached garage conversion, which would be kind of building that out into a full apartment suite, or you could do detached ADUs. And the difference in opportunity, if you were doing a garage conversion, that may cost some around $80,000 to $110,000. But if you're buying a 1960s home, you're going to have a 1960s infrastructure for which you are converting from, and gut rehabs lend themselves to a lot of challenges. If you do a modular build, so you take something that was manufactured offsite and you put it onto a foundation, that's going to be $225,000 to about $275,000, depending on the type of build. And then if you want to do ground up construction that involves pre-development, engineering, or otherwise, it's going to be about $300,000. So that's just to say there are options in how to pursue this. They have their trade-offs and their benefits, and we'll get into those. Main takeaway from this slide is they have made it very easy to permit housing. We did our permit in 30 days for our accessory dwelling unit, start to finish with the city. So it's possible to build, but what is keeping people from building? Money is a really big one, particularly capital risk. If you want to go permit, prior to permitting, you need to go design the space, you need to engineer the space, you need to spend tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars before you even get the right to build. That's a huge risk for a lot of people to undertake. The second is permitting can be a really complex process. If you want to do a single family home, if you want to do multifamily, and prior to this, if you wanted to do ADUs, it could very easily be 19 to 24 months. So you're putting hundreds of thousands of dollars up front, you have uncertainty, you have complexity, you have to select GCs and understand their capacity to build and make sure they're not going to walk away from jobs or opportunities. And you're on the timelines of the city. You are beholden to their inspectors, you're beholden to everything that they say if they want to say it or not. Here's what we've done. We've created turnkey development. Our goal is to make development as simple as closing a property. What that means is all you would be responsible for is creating and facilitating standardized documentation. We have standard floor plans that are manufactured off-site. Site work consists of grading, utilities, foundation, and the unit arrives fully furnished. So we are working to make development as simple as closing on a property. What we build are single-family studios, and this is in Fair Oaks. More than happy to bring any of you through that are interested in this. And what we have is, prior to designing this space, we had 9 micro-lofts in Boston. So these were 275 to 425 square feet apartments. We rented them out for 5 years. I lived in with them at times with my girlfriend for months on end. My co-founder Kevin, who's is my father, lived there with my mom for years at a time. And so these are spaces that we've lived in. They're spaces that we've learned from. They're spaces that we've gotten feedback on. What we did was we went into product design with the idea of not just how do you design incredible spaces, how do you build them efficiently, how do you permit them efficiently, and how do you install them efficiently. If any one of those creates friction, you do not have a solution to the housing problem. What we're trying to solve is the last mile of distribution for housing. So we have identified 50,000 properties in Sacramento that generally fit our ability to do an ADU. And what we need help on is getting them from the factory onto the foundation. And that's what we're starting to mobilize. This is more about the zoning. So when he shares the slides, this is here for you. But the big takeaway is housing policy started around 2016, 2017. In LA, 1/3 of all building permits are for ADUs. So people are moving away from larger density where there's more uncertainty, and they're moving to where there's more opportunity and certainty. So 1/3 of all building permits in LA were ADUs. So I'll walk through how we consider a property, what we look at and what we look for. And if you want to do one here, Kevin, we can walk this property with the group thereafter. What we look for is feasible properties. And what feasible means is there's nothing negating the opportunity to build an ADU. And critical to our approach is creating neighbors. And what neighbors require is separate access, privacy, and separate spaces. So this is the property where we bought the first. What we love about this property was this large side lot. And what you can see when we saw this from above, it didn't look like this, but what we did is we put in different color mulch on the property. So this is definitively their space. This is definitively their space. We ran a fence line all the way back so that they have their own backyard space. Singles and couples often have dogs, and apartment living is the alternative. Now they have an option for space. And they still have a great backyard for this primary home. So side lot access is really critical. The other considerations are ease of installation. There's two ways we install. One is with crane, and one's called the jack and roll system, which may have been up, or I'll show you in a second. And then buildable space. And what buildable space is, the backyard. Are there trees that cannot be removed? Are there power lines that are obstructive? Is it too difficult to try to install this unit? Any one of those things could remove the opportunity of an ADU. But there are 50,000 potential sites to be able to pursue this with our type of product. Any questions so far? I know this is a lot and I'm kind of going a little quick.
How many ADUs can you potentially build in the backyard?
So it depends on where you are. In Sacramento City, you can do 2 detached ADUs per property. In Sacramento County, you can do 1 ADU per property. That said, they're moving policies forward that allow for additional density. So what we're trying to do right now is get people into understanding our process of how do you identify a property, how do you work with us to permit that and order and facilitate an installation. Where we want to go is multifamily and infill lots. So we've designed systems to be able to do 6 to 10 units on a property, or you could do a court style. So the idea is just that single family lots are now being able to add more density. And we have a really simple way of adding that density. So wherever policy allows us to go, we will support people in going.
Can you stack 2 ADUs, like first floor and second floor, or that's too much?
There's a height restriction for what you can do. But in the multifamily structure, which I'll show you towards the end, what we have is a level of same unit, same dwelling, but a level over parking. And so you could do 6 or 7 around a perimeter with parking underneath it. So that's the way that we're thinking about that. So we did our first property, and what was most important to us to validate was the rental rate of the primary, not of the ADU. We will get to the rental rate on that and the way that we approached it. But we want to produce housing at scale. And so we're looking at servicing not just local real estate investors, but institutions. And when talking with Invitation Homes, who's the largest public owner of housing, and I think they own around 1,200 homes here in Sacramento, their biggest question was, does this take away from the rent of the primary? So we did this installation with somebody in the property for the full year that we were doing this process, and we rented it at $26.50, which was above market rate. So not only did we prove that it wasn't that disruptive, we proved that the property was able to maintain its rental, and more importantly, we eventually found that the rental rate for this unit on a 60 to 90 day stay was around $22.50, and for a year-long lease between $19.50 and $20.50. So it was renting close to the primary. And what we were seeing the reason to be was single family homes come unfurnished and year-long leases. This is new construction, it comes furnished, and there's flexibility. And those things warrant a bit more of a premium within the market. The purchasing power of the renter in this unit is about equivalent to that of a single family. Everyone's kind of making around the same medium income as a collective, and which allows them to be able to take the option of the ADU. So what we've done is we've productized development. On the left is the GIS technology that we've used. I've hand scored tens of thousands of properties in Sacramento and on that feasibility. So I would look at a property, I would say, what's the side lot access? What's the ability to install? What's the available backyard space? We rented this on a 1-to-3. We wrote a GIS algorithm. We ran all 450,000 parcels within Sacramento. We pulled the 50,000 that were generally feasible. And now we have a database of generally feasible properties. And what this allows us to do is put guardrails on the underwriting of our partners. So if people want to say, hey, I think I found a property that would be a really good fit for this, how do we work on this project? We could say, that's a great property. It fits exactly as we would expect. Or we could say, hey, these are the limitations and why that property might not work for our strategy. So we've got the data and technology to be able to do site identification and underwriting. The unit is productized. This is very much a Henry Ford. You can have any color you want as long as it's black. We have two options, a left and a right. And the reason that we do that is it allows us to manufacture with manufacturers that do hospitality and multifamily, which are thousands of units a year, rather than any level of customization bringing it back to doing smaller manufacturers that do hundreds of units a year. We're trying to solve this problem in a very unique way. There's gonna be people that wanna have their dream ADU. They wanna design it the way that they wanna have it. And I would support them in finding their resources as best I could. But if you wanna build with us, we've got a product that works. And it is that simple as to bring this thing into market. And what we're doing by doing that is creating a branded experience. So if you have, say, traveling nurses that have been around the country and they're coming into market, they wanna know that they've got a consistent living experience and that they're gonna know what they can rent. So by doing it this way, every property is furnished the same. Full kitchen, full dishwasher, in-unit washer dryer in the space. You're gonna have a great living experience here. What the benefit is for the end customer, our customer, is a consistent development experience. What this allows us to do is create standard permitting packages. So our unit is approved at the state level. When we go to do permitting, all they're looking at are site-specific considerations. What are the utilities? What are the foundations? They don't get to look at the engineering or the design of the property that's already been approved. So the majority of the permitting package is standardized. So it creates a really seamless permitting process. To go back to that for a moment, we were able to do this permit in 30 days. And then what we did is we brought the Sacramento building department and inspection departments through and familiarized them with what we're doing in the area. They want to build housing, they're looking for solutions, and we're trying to build the relationships to make that as seamless as possible. And so we think we can get that down to 7 to 14 days. What we're going to be doing next is creating batch programs. So we'll try to aggregate a few of these together, create a batch permitting process. I want to go to them ahead of time, let them know this is happening, and say, hey, can we turn this around in 24 hours and give the city a win? Like, how great of a publicity would that be for the city to say, hey, we approved 10 homes in 24 hours and it's built by community members. Like, that is a story that starts to say we're contributing to regional housing needs with community members. And that's really the core element of who we are and what we're trying to do.
I have a question.
Please.
How different are these small houses compared to the tiny houses and the mobile homes?
Fundamentally different. And what I mean by that is the build quality and the build material. So we build these to IBC standards, which means they are built with 2x6 construction, and they are built better than any home that's been built after the 1960s, right? This is, when you close the door, you don't hear the traffic outside because of the quality of the windows, because of the quality of the walls.
Soundproof.
It's not even soundproofing, it's just the substance that is there that protects it. So when you build offsite, there's 3 standards that you can build to. RVIA, which is the equivalent of a park model or something you might find in a mobile home. HUD, which is kind of a national standard and something you would find in park models as well, but also natural disaster relief or otherwise, standard across. What we build to is local, state, and building code quality, but it is built off-site for efficiency in the process. So what we do that's different is all the inspections happen off-site. So when we're doing the construction, we don't have to wait for on-site inspections of the builds. They don't need to come in and check the electrical, they don't need to come in and check the structural, they don't need to come check those things. that all happens off-site. So the material costs and the labor costs are very similar, but what you're getting is predictability, efficiency, and standardization in the process. So thank you for that question, because you could put two of these units together and they could look very identical. The quality and the living experience will be very different.
What is like the longevity of an ADU like this?
As long as a home. This is built to be a home. And we wanted to do that because one of the use cases we see are people putting these in their backyard for changing family dynamics. And what I would say that means is it could be aging parents that are coming home that need care. It could be young adults. But more importantly, the family member that puts it back there 10 years from now might decide to live there and live there with flexibility of renting out the primary or traveling or whatever life flexibilities that they want to have. And so we want to put a quality product back there that they would be happy to be living in. This is all about creating spaces that people embrace, not that they endure. I'm living in this right now, not begrudgingly, very lovingly, and I'm really enjoying it for the purpose of understanding what we're bringing to market.
How accessible are the parts? Like, let's say something is damaged, how easy is it to find like replacement for those parts?
So this is one of the great things about our manufacturing process. It's very simple and very standard. People are looking at innovation within housing as 3D printing homes and trying to do things like that. The challenge is you run into your complication, which is how do you fix it? What happens? And so we want to do this at scale with institutions and local and regional investors, which means it needs to be very repeatable. It needs to be very standard. So it's pretty simple. They come with warranties. They come with everything that would be involved in upkeeping the property.
So what we should study, like it will last like 50 years or more?
Yeah. I'm not going to put a disclaimer out there on a date, but these are built to IBC standards. So any expectation you would have of a home is what this means. So where are we going? What are we trying to do? I want to help realtors become developers. And the pathway in doing so is creating an education program that supports the facilitation of housing into the ecosystem. Where it starts is looking for development partners. So these are people that could be identifying properties, identifying clients, people that just kind of facilitate opportunities for us to do ADUs. Where we go to, if you're familiar with a tech accelerator, I'm going to do an analogy really quickly. A technology accelerator is I bring a startup in, I go to Silicon Valley, I go through this program, they bring mentorship, advisorship, resources, tools, and they help you launch a business. We are doing the same thing for the career of development. And so what we want to do is identify the first group of people that can help us bring product into market, and we'll do the process. Then we will bring them through the process so that they can go do it themselves. And what we are left with at the end of the day is distribution of housing. People in the community able to build housing for their community. This is what makes us able to do that. We come in and we take care of the market setup. The pre-development is the design and everything that we've done. Manufacturing is taken care of. The residential experience is thought through. The development, we go find on-site development partners and certify our contractors. So if you are working with somebody, they're familiar with the process. And each of these can be expanded into opportunities. Where we go? We start with ADUs because it's the most simple policy. This same unit can live as infill. This was the design of units over housing and allows for the opportunity to do multiple units on a property. And then where we go is multifamily. We started with multifamily, and we started with multifamily in the Boston area and trying to do it there. And we ran into entitlements, we ran into permitting, we ran into all the friction that you could imagine. So huge scale, long process. Where we're starting now is great scale, simple process, and then elevating people into more development opportunities.
So do you have plans to get back into the multifamily?
Eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Next phase.
So what makes ADU so beautiful is permitting is ministerial, and what that means is there's a set of objective standards. There's not design requirements that can be put in and imposed on us. So when we bring something to permitting, we know that this can get permitted. This infill opportunity is starting to become that way. There are some levels of friction that they are now removing with policy, but as soon as those are removed, we would move into that direction. As soon as they get further into it and allowing for more density, we would then go into that space. This is going to be really amazing. There's policy that's been passed for density along commercial corridors. And what that means is if you have industrial space or parking along commercial corridors, you can make it really easy to permit this type of housing. So we will progress there. But as a startup, as a company that is focusing on something, we need to execute. And what we want to execute today is the proof that we can help people build with a simple standardized system. And that is everything. So I'm happy to answer some questions about that, as well as ADUs generally, as well as anything else that might be on your mind.
Talk about valuation and financing of the ADU.
So those are two places where there needs to be more market data. I would say this is wild. There is an economic opportunity that has been created by government policy that has not been filled by private businesses yet, which is to say that people have not resolved the ability to build seamlessly. So what we need to do is better financing for ADUs because it is such efficient development that traditional construction loans don't necessarily fit the timeline. It is HELOCs are options as well, but this is a place where we are focusing our time and attention in order to help support customers. So what we're doing right now is starting with people that are capitalized, people that have access to financing, have access to equity that can do some of these, and then we're working with financing partners to create a product that could then support, and then we'd go to a broader set of people to be able to do that. What was the second part to your question? Financing.
Valuation and financing.
Yeah, so valuation is the other side of it. We're in process on an appraisal on our property, and what the appraiser told me is we are the first modular ADU in Sacramento, and that goes to the standard of quality. There's other mobile park model type ADUs, but we are the first of this quality. So we need to create comps in the market. We need to create rental comps, we need to create appraisal comps and all these different things, but that will be helped by the standardization because they'll be able to compare apples to apples amongst the community. The two ways you could look at it is a GRM basis, so looking at the gross rent multiple on the primary and applying it to the rent on the secondary. If you do that, it adds about $300,000, $350,000 of value to the property in order to do an ADU. And then the other is a cost basis. So right now, for tax purposes, the county is assessing them in a way where it's basically half the cost of construction, which is actually beautiful for you guys because Prop 19 allows for a reevaluation of base value on a property for tax purposes. But when you do an ADU, it's only applied to the cost of the ADU. So your base plus the cost of the ADU, and they're valuing that around half, which is different.
Nice.
Cost, did you talk about the prices of these ADUs yet?
Not yet. So site-specific considerations are at least 50% of the cost. And when I say site-specific considerations, what I mean is the cost of linear foot, the cost of landscaping decisions, and the cost of privacy decisions.
How about the actual
Unit delivery.
container?
Yeah, well, the home, the dwelling, is, so we think of it two ways. There's turnkey development, which is we take everything on nuts to bolts. Generally, we say that starts around $239. Again, site-specific considerations and everything else can help that price fluctuate. The other form that we do is direct to developer. So say you were doing a construction and you had a primary home that you were building and you said, I could take on the additional permitting, I could take on the additional site work and foundation. We would deliver to site around $150. Now, if you were doing multiple projects, we could do both discounts and otherwise. But these are supported by the rent. So if you think and divide the dollar per square foot of cost of $390 over $239, you're like, my God, construction's so expensive. But if you divide the rent by that same square footage, you're gonna be like, wow, that's 2 to 3 times the dollar per square foot of a primary home. So really what you're trying to get to is about 1% of the construction cost on a per month basis for rent. And that's really hard to find in this market, but we're very close.
Are you guys also like doing the whole landscaping and everything as well?
We can facilitate it.
Okay.
We can support it. And what we wanted to do in this example was really create privacy and separation. That was critical. So we ran over 100 linear feet of fence. That added up, but it was critical to us. The deck that we did was really beautiful. We laid down grass, we laid down filtration systems and sprinkler systems and things. So we really went above to be able to create a showcase property. This one was about $250,000 all in for that amenity package and everything that we did there.
Also, like that whole thing is $250.
Yeah, this whole thing, delivered, manufactured, site work, construction, permitting, all of it all in was about $250 on that project.
So do you have like option A, option B, option C for all those modular stuff, or it's just one size fits all?
Any color as long as it's black. And the reason for that is when we manufacture our units, we're fitting between orders of 100 and 200 size. So they're not going to go do 4 versions of like A, B, and C in order to move through this process. They're going to fit this into their manufacturing style, which is very different. If someone wants customization, there's great companies out there that allow for it. But what we've done is we've optimized our design for privacy and separation. So no windows on this side facing that backyard. That is a wall so that backyard can have children playing, families can feel comfortable. You don't have large windows looking into each other's kitchens or otherwise. The back of the unit has really big windows in this corner up here. Really large windows both there and on the slider. Kevin was in the space. It is really bright. It's really light. And so what we learned from the 5 years of renting smaller spaces in Boston, the things that were important were storage. Being able to get your stuff off the floor away and put away makes the space feel really nice. So we have about 30 linear feet of storage. A washer dryer in unit, that again elevates the living experience. Our ceilings are over 8.5 feet, so you have height and volume of space. And then the full kitchen. So these are the ways that we created a living experience that you can really embrace. It can be very consistent.
Yeah, 400 square feet is the only model.
Yeah, 400 square feet is the only model right now. And so there's definitely a lot of use cases it doesn't fit. Sometimes you have a child that needs some more space and you want to live with them, or mom and dad needs time away from each other and you might want a one bedroom to create that. But what we're seeing is the level of studios in neighborhoods is about zero. But the amount of singles and couples that want to live in neighborhoods is growing exponentially. And so we want to start by fitting that niche. There's no one else in the market servicing that demographic. And so we branded single family studios. And what that describes is the size of the space, the quality of the finishes, but then the amenity package is neighborhood access, backyards, and privacy.
How can we help you?
Yeah.
And you mentioned about realtors, like how can realtors like help promote this?
Yeah.
As part of your mission.
So my goal for this year is I want to find 15 development partners. And what a development partner is somebody that can bring opportunities in, but they don't have to do any of the development. You don't have to go through the process, you don't have to do anything, but maybe it's, if you're a realtor and you've got a book of business that you've built over X amount of years and someone's going through a different life stage and now maybe an ADU might be great for their opportunity, help us bring them in. Where we are going is to then be able to teach you our system from that point. So we're looking for 15 development partners to be able to do the next set of orders. And then early next year, we're launching this housing accelerator, which is an education program on how to do development. And in there, we'll be bringing resources and other things along. So if you have properties that could fit an ADU, I think that would be really wonderful. If you know builders or investors that are tinkering around ADUs and they want support, that would be really great. And if you end up trying to wholesale properties and you identify spaces that have kind of a zoning arbitrage where people might look at it as a single family, but you know it can support an ADU, maybe part of what you're putting together as you sell it off to an investor is the permitting package that goes with it, right? Here's this property, here's what it can be permitted for, and here's the ability just to close, sign on the dotted line and get it taken care of. So that's where we're going to. Now, what questions do you have about that? How does that resonate with you, and what does that sound like to you?
So Jack, we can visit your place in Fair Oaks?
Yes, yes.
That's good.
I'm going to be out of town for a few days. I'm traveling back to the East Coast for wedding and family. But when I come back, I'm going to be hosting events every Tuesday and Thursday. And so I can set up a private tour with you guys, or you can come in and the open house like Kevin came through. And thank you for coming, by the way. Really appreciate you taking an opportunity to come say hello, and it was an incredibly valuable conversation, so thank you. So we can do tours or Tuesday, Thursday events. Will be kind of an open house format to educate people on this.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And there's development success fees for referrals and things like that. So that's not like an out of kindness. Here's what I believe. Self-interested, aligned towards common goals can create a lot of good. And I think that if you can do well personally by doing good for your community, that is the best opportunity to pursue. And so if you can generate wealth by building housing for people that need housing, that's what I'm trying to align towards. And so we'd love to work with you and talk to you about that.
Jack, how much is a like ready to build, like permit value for it?
In what sense? Can you
Let's say, hey, I got a permit.
Yep.
It's ready to build an ADU. I'm gonna sell
Yep.
a lot with a permit.
Yep.
To I don't know whoever.
It
Right,
depends
how
how
much?
the investor would value it, right? If they're going to value it on an investment basis, I actually think it's a really great opportunity to close the gap between asking price and selling price. Because I think a lot of times sellers are holding where they are right now because they want the market to like kind of come to their price, and buyers are like, well, I'm not going to write that check. Generally, wholesaling is going to say, I've got to depreciate the price of this so that I can create a margin. What I think we have the opportunity to say is, people have mispriced this property. I will take it as is because there's a value creation on top of it with it. Again, on a GRM basis, $300,000 to $350,000 of value creation on a $235,000 to $245,000 installation.
I'm asking like, what's the multiple, right? Like, let's say you spend $10,000 to get the permit, or $15,000. Like, what is the return on that $10,000?
I haven't broken that out. I haven't broken that out yet, but we could think through it. Maybe that would be a great thing for us to do, to be able to try to describe this better to some people.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Really great question though, thank you. Thank you guys for your time. And if you guys have any interest in this, I've got a little bit of material over here, as well as my card and my information, and this will be shared. And if it's not right for you, but you know somebody that's like, hey, I'm becoming a realtor, I want to become a developer, I think upward mobility is a great thing, send them my way. I really love self-starters, I love ambitious people, and I love people that are going to be able to see the opportunity and try to create something here. So thank you guys, really appreciate it.